Welcome to Q&A practice. We'll start with the plaintiff attorney. Ready? Here we go. At about what time did Mr. West come back to the station? To the best of my knowledge, it was around 4-5 in the afternoon. When he came to the station, was he driving the same vehicle he was driving before? He was driving the Lexus. Do you remember what color it was at this time? I cannot tell you the color. Where did he drive the car? He drove it up close to our first stall, just ahead, inside of the first stall. You had 2 stalls for vehicles in there? That's correct. When he drove it in? Yes. Did someone come with Mr. West? A little lady. Was she driving a vehicle? She was driving another vehicle. Where did she park her car? She parked it right in front of the station. Did she get out of the car, if you remember? No. Did you start toward that car? I did start toward the car. Did Mr. Henry West say something? He hollered that was his girlfriend and she was waiting for him. What did you do? I went back inside. Pardon me, I went back inside. Does that mean back in where Mr. West and your son was? That's correct. Did you hear a conversation between your son and Mr. West? Yes. Will you tell His Honor and the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what they said at that time? Mr. West said, I brought my car back in to you to put the tailpipe or the exhaust pipe and take it out for a test drive. You have all weekend to do it. What did your son say then, if anything? I don't remember. Was there any other conversation that your son had at that time? No, Mr. West acted like he was in a hurry to get away. Okay, did he leave where your son was? Beg pardon? Did he leave where your son was? Yes. Where did he go? He went out and got in the car with his girlfriend. Then did he leave the station? Yes. Have you ever seen him since then? I have never seen him since. I wouldn't recognize the guy. You stayed at the station, did you not, until it was quitting time that evening, or did you leave before then? Beg pardon? After Mr. West left, you stayed at the station, correct? I did stay at the station. How long did you stay at the station? I stayed there that afternoon until about 8:30, 8:45. Did you have a conversation about meeting with your son someplace? Yes. Was that at the Western Ballroom in Hyde Park? My son left early and went down to the pool hall and shot a few games of pool. He called me twice from down there, wanting me to go out with him. Okay. Did you then tell him you would meet him? The last time he called me, I did tell him. You didn't see him again until sometime near midnight, correct? At the time he talked to me down at the pool hall, he came back. I promised him I would go. Excuse me. He came back to the station. He said he called me. He said, Dad, I will come on up to close up for you. You came back and you left. I left and cleaned up. He closed the station up. That is correct. The next time you saw him was down at the Western Ballroom. All right. When you saw him down there, will you tell us when you first saw him, where he was? I had pulled in there with some friends. They had run out of gas in their car, so I left to get some gas to put in their car. As I pulled out on Flower, out in the alley, I seen a light behind me moving some, so then I got on down about a block and pulled over. This light pulled up behind me, and it was my son. Was your son driving the Lexus at that time? He was driving the Lexus. Was he with someone? He was with another gentleman. That was Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, correct. At that time, did you have a conversation with your son? Yes, I got out of my car and went back. You went back to where your son was? Correct. You said something to your son and your son said something to you, correct? That is correct. He got out. He got out of his car. Don't tell us the conversation yet. He got out of his car and met me halfway. All right, now let's try a little practice from our transcript that we've been working on. And we will start with the defense attorney. Ready? In your training, in your years of experience in this area, are there any types of prescription medications that contain alcohol that can create that ETOH odor that's indicated in the level of consciousness section? I'll object. That's beyond the scope of this witness. If you know, I don't know. And you had no idea whether Ms. Waters was on any medications, prescription or not, at the time of the rendering of treatment, correct? No, I didn't. Is there anything about the pupil section that would lead you to believe, as a treating paramedic, one way or the other, whether the patient was under the influence of alcohol or not? No. Again, it could have been caused by the accident. It could be caused by the alcohol. I have no way of knowing. So, looking at this report as a whole, with the findings based on the various tests, the observations you made, there was nothing that was uncommon or abnormal by these findings based on somebody who was just struck by a vehicle in your experience, correct? Objection misstates his testimony. Well, it's all abnormal to be struck by a vehicle and have an altered level of consciousness and all these injuries. Isn't that abnormal? Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at, if you take away the ETOH odor that you observed on Ms. Waters, all these other findings are made by you as a treating paramedic, would you look at it and say, wow, this is uncommon, this finding for somebody who was struck by a vehicle? Or would you look at this and say, well, I can understand why I'm observing these findings. She was just struck by a vehicle. It makes sense to me in my years of experience. Yes, all these findings could be caused from the accident that she had gone through. There's nothing to indicate that it was alcohol in any of them. Okay, fair enough. Or vice versa, that the accident that caused them. And you were in the transporting ambulance that took Ms. Waters to, I believe it was Mission Hospital. Yes. All right, that will conclude our Q&A practice.